Hey everybody, I'm Scott Weichel. You're listening to My Kind of Country. Thanks for joining us on a Monday night. Always a pleasure to have a return guest tonight, and she's got a brand new album called Rhinestone, Cowgirl, and she wrote or co-wrote every single song on this album. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's a pleasure to have her on the show tonight, Olivia Harms. Olivia, how are you tonight?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Scott. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing just great. It's a pleasure to have you back on the show again. We had such a nice visit last time.
Oh, I know we did. So thank you for having me back. I'm excited to dive in and chat a little bit about the new music.
Well, I'm very excited for you too. And how's your mom doing?
Oh, she's good. She's good. We're just getting ready to go to Montana for the Art of the Cowgirl Festival. So we're chomping at the bit to get back out there and back on tour and see all of our favorite people.
Olivia is the daughter of Joni Harms, who, of course, is a member of the Western Music Hall of Fame, and we're so happy to feature her music on our shows. And one of my favorite songs that she did was her tribute to Merle Haggard, just called Merle. I just love that song.
Oh, I do too. I remember when she played it for me right after she wrote it, and it's just a little work tape that she had from the day, and I loved it. It was amazing. She's such a good songwriter, so I'm happy to have her as my teacher.
Well, she has taught you well because you are certainly carrying on the torch and you're doing a fantastic job. This is an ambitious new album that you've written and co-written every song on here. And tell me the story of how Rhinestone Cowgirl all came together.
Well, thank you very much. I'm so glad that it's been so well received. But, yeah, it's been a process. I'll tell you what. I started commuting back and forth to Nashville probably around 2016, 2017, right, when I was just getting done with college. And I got the degree done, and so then I just wanted to focus full-time on music and make a go of the music career. And so I started commuting back and forth to Nashville, writing a lot of music, meeting a lot of great people, and then slowly but surely just ended up coming together with this, batch of songs, and it's hard to narrow it down. But when I finally put these, 10 and then 11, there's a little bonus track that hasn't been released yet, out, I just thought, this is a good match. Everything fits together. It's my style of traditional country music, kind of honky-tonk music, the music that I feel I best play and represents me as an artist. And so the commuting to Nashville is one of the biggest steps in the process of putting the album together, because it's taken 3 or 4 years. And of course, I was supposed to record the album March of 2020, and then we all know that COVID came and kind of disrupted our lives a little bit. And so I had to postpone it a couple months, and I postponed it till May 2020, and that's when I recorded it. And then I had hoped that, COVID would kind of blow over and I would be able to release the album November or December of 2020, and then it just seemed like it wasn't quite the right opportunity yet, and so I sat on it for a little longer, and then I thought, we've been sitting on it this long, let's just release it on the anniversary date of when it was recorded. And so it's been a real process. A lot of love and a lot of time has been spent, tweaking each song and making sure the mix is exactly how we wanted it to be, but I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Folks, I do want to mention oliviaharms.com is Olivia's website, and you can go there and pick up the new album, and of course Olivia's other great music, including her solo album and her duets album with her mom called Our Favorites, which is just fabulous. She has a great Facebook page, and I know you did a video recently where you were talking about kind of behind the scenes of the new songs and playing some of those acoustically.
Yeah, that's been one of my favorite things to do is share the stories behind the songs, because I love the fact that I get to be a songwriter and kind of share bits of my life or my experience through songs. I find that's the best way for me to be authentic, is to just take a little piece of my life and then put it into music and then share it. And that way it's very authentic and it's really relatable to listeners because it's something that I've lived or experienced. And so then sharing those stories about how a song came about or how it was inspired, I think people have really enjoyed, throughout this process. And so it was fun. I figured on the release day I would do just a behind the song of like 7 and tell the stories, and it went over really well. So I guess I'll just keep doing that.
Yeah. That when COVID came along, that kind of started a new trend with a lot of artists. They get on and do little Facebook concerts and do more videos to stay in touch with her fans. And it seems to have gotten really, really popular, and it's carried on, and I think it's a great tool.
It is. It definitely is. I mean, I did my fair share of videos and Facebook Live, Instagram Live, all those fun things. And it is a wonderful tool for artists, especially during COVID when we can't get out and see our friends and fans in person. But I have to say, I have truly, truly missed seeing people in person and having that connection where someone is just out there in the audience tapping their foot or smiling at you or really digging the music, or even having someone come up afterwards and be able to share that they really connected to a certain song. I did a cover of Traveling Soldier a couple weeks ago at a gig, and I had a woman come up and say, this song really touched me, and of course that's on our Favorites album that I did with my mom, and it was just so cool to see the connection that is, able to happen when you're playing live for people and just see how you can touch people, because that's the real reason that I do music. So that was cool, and I'm glad that we're able to be doing that again.
Oh, absolutely. And I know that you're a vinyl music lover. You had a great picture on Facebook the other day where you were looking at some albums and you were holding a Glenn Campbell album, and I'm assuming that the title of your new album is kind of a tip of the hat to Glenn.
It is, yeah, you caught that. Yeah, I was like, I wonder if anyone else gets this. That it's Glenn Campbell, but yes, I do love vinyl. I'm thinking of getting a few vinyl printed up of Rhinestone Cowgirl. I don't even have a TV. I just have a record player, and then if I really need to watch TV, I have a laptop. But I love listening to old records and hearing the pop and the crackle, and I just feel like it really gives the music extra vibrancy and all of that. So hopefully I'll have a little bit of interest. I don't know how many people have record players anymore, but I might get some printed up. But yeah, the name Rhinestone Cowgirl, I was really struggling with what to name the album because I already had my debut album just titled Olivia. When I was 16, I put that out. And this is just completely different. It's like really a step forward of who I am as an artist versus, the album I'm still very proud of, but it was a 16-year-old version of Olivia, and now this is a 26-year-old version. And so I really wanted to give it a title that I felt I connected to, and I went through all the song names because typically you'll use a song name as your album title, and none of them seemed to really just fit perfectly. And so I was looking at some of the lyrics of Gypsy, which is a really personal song that I wrote about what it's been like to travel with my mom growing up, being on the road, and how I just love that lifestyle. And one of the lines is, I'm a turquoise-wearing rhinestone cowgirl. And I thought, that really is me. And I feel like growing up on a cattle ranch, I'm definitely a cowgirl, and I know how to be tough and get out there and get gritty and put my dirty boots on. But at the end of the day, I'm also ready to doll up and, put something fancy on and go play music. And so I figured that was a really good way to describe who I am, and it was a lyric in the song, so I figured that was a good title, and it also gave a nod to Glenn Campbell, and he's always been one of my very favorite artists. I love his music. I was listening to Don Williams earlier today. I just love listening to the traditional country and how they craft their lyrics and their songs.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because every time I talk to a younger person who is listening to the old music, it touches my heart. He mentioned vinyl. Put me down for a copy, because I absolutely love vinyl. I play it all the time, and I am finding that more and more listeners are really loving vinyl, and it's made a big comeback. A lot of indie artists are putting their albums on vinyl, and they're doing extremely well. They're selling more of those than they are the downloads or the CDs. So I definitely recommend it.
All right, well, you sold me on it. I'm going to get some printed. You know what I would love to figure out? Maybe listeners can drop me a comment if they know of any way that I could do this. I think it would be so cool if I could get it printed on like a turquoise vinyl or like a pink vinyl. I don't know how the boys would feel about playing pink vinyl, but something colored that's a little bit different,
Absolutely. Well, going back to Gypsy, you have a video for Gypsy as well, right?
I do, yeah. I have this wonderful friend, Natalie McFarland of McFarland Productions, and she is so talented and amazing, and she offered to help me make some music videos for the singles that I released over, the last year before I released the whole album. And when it came time to release Gypsy, she said, I have this idea. why don't we travel all around Oregon, since Oregon has so many different landscapes, and that way we can get a variety of, places and looks, and just kind of play with that gypsy, the traveling. And I said, okay, I love it. So we found a couple days that worked, and I think we ended up putting on 600 miles going all around Oregon. And I had my dogs with me, because that's a big part of my life, is my 2 little dogs, Luna and Elmer. And so we just traveled around and filmed, and I think it turned out really good. So if you haven't seen it, you have to go check it out.
So tell me about Road of Life. I know you've done a video for this one, too. This is a great swing song.
Thank you. Yeah, that one was kind of one of the last ones that made the album. We had an idea, me and my producer, D. Scott Miller, to write a song just kind of like, off the cuff, but also kind of philosophical, like life advice, because I've said so many times, I'm just rolling down the road of life, and you never know what's around the bend. And we were having a conversation about that one day, and it was just kind of when COVID was starting to percolate and come about, and we were like, oh yeah, who knows what's going to happen with this? And it was just perfect timing, because we wrote the song, and then COVID came out and really kind of gave us a turn and a run for our money. And I was like, this is the perfect song. We've got to include this one on the album also. And so it was really fun one to write. It's like you say, it's a classic swing song. The music video was super fun to record. I live in a little town called Prineville, Oregon. It's the cowboy capital of Oregon. It's only like 2 or 3 hours from where my parents live. And it's got this little dive bar. And of course, if I had unlimited funds, I would have loved to go to like Billy Bob's or like a really cool honky-tonk in Texas to film the music video. But since we were dealing with COVID and limited funds, that wasn't an option. So we used this little dive bar in my town of Prineville. And I have a local band here that I use, and so we had them come in. We found a couple extras that were willing to do some swing dancing, and just filmed it and had a blast. It was so much fun to record it. And so if anyone gets wild and wants to come to Prineville, Oregon, you'll have to go to the Horseshoe and watch the music video and see if you can see the similarities.
Well, for a little while, you were posting pictures and little teasers about the song Kiddie Pool, and I'd like to have you tell me the story behind Kiddie Pool.
Absolutely. Kiddie Pool is a really great story. I was in Nashville, I think 2 or 3 years ago. This was early on in my commuting, and my mom was kind enough to introduce me to Wood Newton. And Wood is a wonderful songwriter. He's written a ton of great songs with my mom. Several great songs. And so she said, here, we'll introduce you to Wood, and you guys can write and see what you come up with. And I remember this one day, I had been in town for quite a while. I usually go to Nashville for a week and a half, 2 weeks at a time, and I have, a big stack in my notes of ideas and things that we toss around at the beginning of a write and then find an idea and go for. And since I had been in Nashville for a little while, and when I got to write with Wood, I was kind of out of those ideas since I had used them up in other writing sessions. And so I was kind of sweating bullets thinking, this is a great writer. I really need to come up with an idea that might be good and worthwhile, because I don't want to get with him and be like, oh, darn it, I have nothing to offer. And so we were sitting there trying to just chat and find something that might click, as you do, and he was asking me about my life, and I said, oh yeah, everything's going really good, but I do have this one girlfriend that had her boyfriend just take off on her, and she's pretty bummed out because he just left and didn't really say too much and always makes excuses. And he said, oh man, that's too bad. And I said, yeah, it is, but at the same time, she's better off without him. Nobody wants to be with someone who doesn't really want to be with them. And he said, oh, yeah, I guess, okay. And so I said, yes, it was me. I got my 2 dogs, and I would get a kiddie pool and whip out the garden hose, get a bottle of wine. I'd just hang out and have a grand old time. And he said, oh, okay, tell me more. And so I, rattled off a couple other things, listening to Vinyl, Pat Decline, and all that, and he said, I think we got a song. So after we talked a little while about what I would do if someone took off on me, we wrote Kiddie Pool in about 40 minutes, and it has just been one that people have really enjoyed for the last couple of years. I've been playing it and testing it out on people, and I've got just the best response. So I'm hoping here in the next month or so we can record a music video for Kiddie Pool, because I think that one will be an absolute hoot to record, just because there's so many funny little details about that song.
Well, before we talk about some more of the songs on the album, tell me a little bit more about some of the players on here, and also tell me a little more about D. Scott Miller. I know that you wrote a lot of the songs on here along with D. Scott, and he produced it for you. So give me a little bit of background on some of these great folks that helped you get this album together.
Yeah, absolutely. So D. Scott Miller, he's wonderful. He actually goes back to when my mom was writing and doing a lot of things in Nashville. He produced one of her early records before Capitol Records took her and did an album with her. They wrote a couple great songs together. So when I was looking for a producer, I was talking with several different amazing people in Nashville, but one of the questions that I would ask folks in, kind of the interview or just, conversational part before we would really look into what it would be for them to produce an album on me, was, what do you hear when you listen to my music? Who are some artists that you would relate me to? And a lot of them, bless their heart, I mean, of course, I am so flattered, but they would say Joni Harms. And of course I sound like her, she's my mom, but I was looking for a little bit more of a unique answer, just to, see if they could get my direction a little better. And D. Scott just nailed it on the head. He said, I hear a little bit of like Buck Owens, Emmylou Harris, a little bit of Dolly Parton, but definitely traditional country, but Bakersfield, since you're from the West Coast, and like that Texas swing all mixed together. And I was like, ding, 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 you are the one. He just saw my vision and heard what I was hearing in my little house band in my head, and he took it and ran with it, and we wrote a couple really great songs. We wrote Hey There Cowboy. He helped Antoinette Olsen and I musically on Gypsy. He really helped with, the melody of that song. Road of Life was written with him. I Don't Want You, I don't need you, but I want you was written with him. So it's just been a blast. He's been wonderful to work with, and he's still, helping me charge ahead in Nashville, seeing if we can find any other opportunities possibly to promote the album. I get to go back here shortly and go back to Nashville, and we'll do some more writing. And so he's been wonderful. He found all these great players. I had Kenzie Wetz. She plays on the Opry a whole bunch, and she did the fiddle parts on Road of Life. And Kiddie Pool, we had Bart Walker on the electric guitar and the baritone guitar, and just some really, really cool players. And so I'm very grateful for the team that he put together for the album. It turned out really well.
It turned out fantastic, no doubt about it. Well, you mentioned Buck Owens and Merle Haggard, of course, so you got to tell me the story behind the song Bakersfield.
Absolutely. So after we had our conversation, kind of in the preliminary process of seeing if he would be my producer or not, and then he had that golden answer for me, I said, okay, yep, let's move forward. I feel like this is a good fit. And so he said, well, I'd like to see if we could write a couple songs for the album. And I said, yeah, let's see what we connect on and see what we drive on. And he said, well, there's never truly been a woman in Bakersfield music. I mean, I'm sure there are, but a prominent one, you always think of Dwight Yoakam, Merle Haggard, or Buck Owens. And he said, I kind of hear you doing a Bakersfield honky-tonk sort of vibe for your record. Maybe we should write a Bakersfield song. And I said, I would love that. I truly wish lots of times that I could go back in time and see what the Crystal Palace was like, and Buck's Day, or go play the Palomino when Emmylou Harris was playing there. There's just so many really cool places, and I wish I could go back in time and feel it and just walk the streets and understand what helped them create such wonderful music. And so we just kind of took that idea and ran with it, and definitely included the rhinestones and the nudie suits. I love that embroidery and all those Manuel nudie outfits that they used to have, like Porter Wagner used to rock those. So we included all those fun little details, and I'm happy with how the song turned out. It's been a favorite from the album, so I'm glad people are liking it so much.
Definitely. I am sure you've been to Manuel's shop there in Nashville.
I have. Very tempting. You know, it's a dangerous place for a young woman to go, especially when when my funds are limited. But I just go in there and drool and look and think maybe one day. But I am very fortunate. Vera Vasily, she's made wonderful outfits for my mom. She's recently done a whole bunch of chain stitch embroidery work for Miranda Lambert, John Party. I think she even just did something for Gwen Stefani. My mom and her are friends, and so my mom was kind enough to reach out to Vera, and Vera just blew it out of the water. She made my cover jacket and included, you know, the squash blossom and all of those wonderful things, like a very Navajo Aztec Western look. And so if anyone's curious about the jacket on the cover of Rhinestone Cowgirl, it was made by Vera, and she's very talented. So maybe one day I'll get a nudie suit or a Manuel, but I feel very excited to have a start with Vera's jacket.
They are beautiful, and that's one thing I wanted to mention. You're certainly a very beautiful lady in the first part, but also you always have on the best clothes, and you always dress the part. You look like you are a country music star, and I think that that's something that a lot of artists are lacking in this day. And I'm so glad to see you doing that, because you always look fantastic whenever you see pictures or videos of you.
Well, thank you so very much. I appreciate that. I had a very good teacher. My mom dressed me up from head to toe since I was on stage with her at 2 days old, and ever since then I would go with her to cowboy gatherings or wherever she was going, playing music, and she taught me at a very young age to always dress up to be on stage and, give people a show. They're there to listen to your music, but they also want to see you cleaned up and that you put some effort in. You shouldn't be wearing your baseball cap and her holy jeans and a T-shirt unless that's totally your vibe. Then that's great. But I've always thought it doesn't hurt me to, put in a little extra work to look presentable and look good, and that way people really feel like they're getting a good show. And so I had a wonderful teacher, and I'm glad to hear that people accept my style, because I know it's a little unique. It's kind of country, and it's kind of modern and Western, but it's who I am, and so I'm glad that I'm glad that people receive it well.
Amen. Well, folks, again, we're talking to Olivia Harms. Her brand new album is called Rhinestone Cowgirl. OliviaHarms.com is the website. And, of course, you can go to Amazon and all the Spotify and all the great places that we get our music nowadays. There's always seems to be a song on an album, and I listen to an album in its entirety. And there's always a song that I kind of gravitate toward, and I found myself going back and listening to this one over and over again. And it's next to Bakersfield. I think it's probably my favorite song on this album, and it's very beautiful. It's just a great slow shuffle, and it's called Just Like Yesterday.
Oh, yes, thank you very much. I'm so glad that you relate to that one, that it was pulling at you. This was so much fun to write. I wrote this with Mike Loudermilk, and his dad used to be really good friends with Chet Atkins. And, of course, since I love my old traditional country music, I could only wish and dream to be the kind of guitar picker that Chet was. But we always write in the RCA building, which is right on Music Row, and he's got a wonderful office there. And so a couple years ago when I was there writing with him, I think we had just had our normal 10:30 a.m. appointment, and I got there, and he said, my office is busy today. I think he shares it with someone, and so someone else was in there, and he said, would you mind if we just go to the spare room down the hall? And I said, oh, no, I'm happy to be here. Wherever you want to write works for me. And so the RCA building is filled with all these pictures of, Dolly Parton, Johnny Cash, Roy Orbison, all these really cool people that have recorded there and walked the halls. And so I'm already pinching myself whenever I'm in there. And when he said spare room, I was kind of expecting, like a library or a janitorial closet or just some spare empty room. And so we're walking down the hall, and he gets to this door, and he types in a little code on the door to open it up. And next thing I know, we're in this room, and it's gorgeous. It's got this big desk and guitars all over the wall and a big fireplace and all this, country memorabilia. And he says, this is called the Magic Room, and it's Chet Atkins' old office. And since my dad was such good friends with Chet, I get to use it once in a while. And so I was just in there, trying to keep it cool and calm down and not not lose it and fangirl while I was, in there ready to write with Mike. But it was so cool. He picked up one of Chet's old guitars, and we were talking about how country music really isn't the same as it used to be as far as storytelling and really pulling at your heartstrings. And then, the country music series was going on at the time anyways, going through the history of country music. And so we were really feeling like we wanted to write a traditional country sad song with a lot of crying steel guitar and room for twin fiddle parts and all that. And they say in Nashville that if you can write a song that tells a story and evokes feeling in around 70 words, then it's a really good country song. And I don't know if this is a really good country song, but I do know that we have the word count going for us. So it was fun to write, and it came really fast. It's wonderful when you're with someone and the song just comes together in an hour and a half, and then you just kind of enjoy and play and mess around with it a little bit more. And this was a really easy song to write and fun. I enjoy playing it. So I'm really glad that one spoke to you and that you're enjoying that one.
Oh, and that's why I am such a traditionalist. I love the old music and the old style and keeping that tradition alive, and this song definitely does that. And what a cool thing that the place that you went to write became the inspiration to write a song. I think that's really something else.
Oh, I mean, it was just so cool. It was like just one of those experiences where I was like, thank you, God. This was a real gift. Like something just wonderful happened without really any effort. It was just magic, and it happened, a real gift when songs like that are just kind of delivered to you.
A wonderful gift that you've given my listeners tonight, and I'm very proud to play these songs, and I will play them often on My Kind of Country. And folks, again, please go to oliviaharms.com. The album is called Rhinestone, Cowgirl, and make sure if you get a chance to see Olivia, go see her. She puts on a wonderful show, and as she said earlier, she dresses the part, and you will love every minute of it. Thank you so much for taking time to be on My Kind of Country.
Oh, it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Scott, for having me, and hopefully we'll cross paths sometime soon down the road.
I hope so, too. Thank you so much, and give your mom our very best.
Oh, I absolutely will.
All right, that's Olivia Harms as we continue with My Kind of Country.